Hey, today I'll talk about my GitHub repository HTML style HTML5 starter app with Swift. I apologize. It's early in the morning and still having my coffee. Okay, so HTML5 starter app with Swift. Now, this repository of mine is my most popular open source repository, and it has about 65 stars on GitHub. And that's what it got over 5 years ago. And unfortunately, I have not been able to keep it up to date until now. So in this video, I'll just share a little bit about what the repository is, what problem was I trying to solve when I created that, um, what are its potential use cases, um, and what the latest update, what's my latest update to it, my latest commit to it, what does it add to the repository. Okay, all right, so what does it do? So HTML5 starter app with Swift, it showcases a unique way of building iOS apps. So with this, um, you can build a fully native iOS app using all the native features such as core data and all of that, yet use HTML5 based UI. So for all the UI, the buttons and the views and the styling and all that, so you can have like HTML like buttons for interaction, and you can style that with CSS and lay out the content with HTML and yeah. So this is what it does. Now, how does it do it? So it actually establishes a sort of a client server model in that the client is your view, which has the WK, which has the web view. You've got a web view and it's got the view, and you put all your CSS, put all your UI content, HTML content in there, HTML5 content in there, which sends messages to the Swift-based backend. So which sends messages to the view controller, which is written in Swift. So if you think about it, it's not very different from building any other sort of web backend, or like a Python and Django, or like Java. So I mean, for those of you like me coming to this from the Java world, I mean, if you're a full stack Java developer, what do? You write a bunch of backend Java code, and then you have front end, which is HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and you're probably using some sort of JavaScript framework. I don't know, like I use Angular, but I guess React is a lot popular now. So React. I mean, it's at least in Australia, React is really very widely used. I mean, you cannot. I mean, um, you'll find more companies using React than you will for Angular. Anyway, so yeah, that's what this repository does. Like that's what it showcases how you can achieve that. And this is not a hybrid solution like PhoneGap, Cordova, or React Native or something like. This is not a hybrid solution. This is actually a fully native solution where the client is the it's simply just it's just a client, like it's just a HTML5 based client, and the backend is fully Swift. So in that case, you can use, like I said, all native features. Now, right? Why did I do this? Yeah, it's an interesting question. Back in 2015, I wanted to build something for the iOS, and it was the first time I was doing anything for iOS. As such, I thought that for me to get something done in the time frame that I wanted to be done, I thought it would be best that I could reuse some of my existing skill set, which is which comes from being a full stack Java developer, like some of my front end skills, like skills in HTML5 Java, skills in HTML, JavaScript, and all that. As such, my first choice was to use a hybrid framework, and I built something with it. I started building something with it, but I soon realized that with hybrid frameworks, there are limitations. I mean, some of the things that you can do, um, some of the things that are available natively, you cannot find them in on the hybrid side of things, which at the time was UI local notifications for iOS. And then I thought, maybe hybrid is not the way to go, and I should think of another approach. And that's how HTML5 starter app with Swift came to be. Now, that's how I built the My Day Through flagship product, the main app for My Day Through and My Day Through Lite. And once I released the apps, I figured, you know what? Maybe I should share the solution with the rest of the world. Why not? I mean, that's what open source is, right? I mean, individually, we're all smart people, but together we get smarter, and that is open source. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I did, and to my surprise, people liked it. I said 65 stars, and in addition to that, I've received many messages from people saying that, oh, my phone gap or my Cordova app was not, I could not, it didn't get through the App Store review process, and thanks to your repository, it now did, and now I've released the app, and yeah, that was great. Getting those thank you messages was really that was rewarding, indeed, very rewarding for what I did. For it's when you contribute to open source, you're not really looking for money. You're really just looking for an acknowledgement of the contribution that you've made. Did I say that correctly? Anyway, what I mean is, when you contribute to open source, a thank you is more than enough. Really, thank you is good. Um, anyway, so what happened is over the years, being the only developer at my startup, my work increased exponentially. I mean, I saw a really, we saw a massive spike in downloads. The usage increased, um, like big time. Heaps and heaps of users, like seriously. And in addition to that, also lots of, feedback. Now, what happened after that is that made me focus all my a lot of my attention on doing other things, startup things like hiring interns, hiring employees, looking for staff, or things like localizing the app to different languages, adding analytics, getting user feedback, doing focus group studies, so on and so forth. So my non-development duties increased a lot, like big time. So what that meant was I had no free time, and there was very little time for me to keep contributing to this repository of mine. As such, it sort of stagnated. I mean, the great initial response that I did have of 65 stars and 19 folks, it could have increased, but I did not update this repository for the last 5 years. Which brings me to this point. Now that I found some time, now that I'm thinking of winding things up for my startup and then going back to working for someone, um, in winding down all the projects that I do have, this is one of the projects that I want to sort of that deserves a little bit of my love. I mean, really. Um, so last weekend I thought that hey, why not? Let's give it. Let me just bring this repository up to speed. Actually, it wasn't last weekend. It was probably a couple of days ago. One of the evenings, a couple of days ago. Yeah. So I might. So the repository was sort of. I think it was in Swift 2 or something, and it was the last time I built it. The last time I compiled it was Xcode 9 or no, it was Xcode 7. I can't remember. Anyway, so it was Swift 2. So I actually migrated that to Swift 5 and made the build. It's still backwards compatible though. Like it supports iOS versions from 9 and above. Initially it was iOS 7 or 8, but now we actually upgraded that to iOS 9. Not to the latest one, it's still compatible with the older versions of iOS. So yeah, I did that and I pushed the latest commit to the repository and there's a couple of things that I want to do with it. Um, there are a couple of things that I want to add to it, which I will do that in the coming weeks or coming days, depending on how I go with my time. And initially, the app was it was using it was dependent on Ionic and Angular, Ionic One and Angular, but I've changed that to just HTML, HTML file and plain JavaScript. Um, that's I've just kept it to like plain old JavaScript. So this actually widens the appeal a little bit because not everyone may use Angular, especially in this world. Now that in Australia, I've realized that there's not a lot of people that use Angular. I wish more people used it, but whatever. They're all the same. I mean, Angular, React, these are all frameworks. At the end of the day, they all built on, you know, plain old JavaScript. TypeScript is awesome though. Like TypeScript is really cool. TypeScript rocks. Static typing, yay! Anyway, all right. So, what are some of the use cases of such a of this repository and building an iOS app like this? One of the things, as I mentioned, if you're an organization and you want to get in on the the mobile side of things, you've got a great web application, a massive web app, with heaps of users and clients and all that. And if you want to build, if you want to get into the mobile world, this is one way in which you can get to it because with this, it serves a good starting point, and you don't have to heavily invest in iOS side of things, like having like iOS programmer, iOS developers who can code with native UI. So yeah, that's one thing. I mean, I'm pretty comfortable with iOS UI now. I mean, now if I was doing stuff, if I was doing an iOS, if I was building an iOS app, I build it pure, natively, and that too not using Storyboard, but just doing everything in Swift code. It's just better for, it's just more reasonable code. Anyway, yeah, so that's one use case. Now the other use case is the same thing. So if you've got an existing web application that you've heavily invested invested in, and you realize that users are spending a lot more time on the mobile side of things. Like they're spending a lot more time with mobile devices. Like it could be iPad, iPhone, whatever. Like let's say iPad, and you want to give them a slightly more native experience. You can start off with something like this. So what you can do is you can build a split view app of sorts. Like you can have one half as with native iOS, like native iOS controls. You can keep that to a minimum, and the other half you can actually keep that to your the web content that you already have. You can host that in a WK web view, which is what this repository shows now. So you can actually, yeah, you can just do that. So you have one half which is native, and the other half which is powered by web. And at the same time, at the end, these two are still views, and they can still use native iOS functionality. So that's one way to go about it. I'll write a blog post on it too, and we'll see how we go. So Yeah, if you have any comments, let me know. Otherwise, live long and prosper.